All right, today we're going to look at a company called Papa Studio. They seem to be cracking the code on what makes an app or a game not just good, but, addictive. They're literally in the business of play. So let's dive into their playbook and see what we can figure out. They call themselves a game tech partner. Okay, so what does that actually mean? We're going to break down their whole model and see how they take an idea from just a concept, a little spark, into something that's actually successful and engaging. You've seen this happen, right? A game or an app comes out, it has huge potential, everyone's talking about it, and then it just fizzles out. It's a classic story. So what's the secret ingredient here? What separates the big hits from the total misses? Well, a lot of the time, the problem isn't even the idea. The idea can be fantastic. It's the execution. Even the most brilliant concepts can get totally tripped up by some really common but super critical hurdles. And this really gets to the heart of the matter. Having a great idea, well, that just gets you in the race. It doesn't mean you're going to finish, and it sure as heck doesn't mean you're going to win. That road from concept to a successful launch, it's just full of obstacles. And it usually boils down to one of these three big hurdles. First, you might just not have the right team, the specialized people who know how to build something that's both fun and functional. Second, the investment. It can just spiral out of control. Timelines get pushed, costs go up, and maybe worst of all, you finally build the thing, and people just don't stick around. This quote just nails the engagement problem, doesn't it? A product can be technically perfect, flawless even, but it'll still fail if it wasn't designed with that deep understanding of game mechanics and player psychology. Technical perfection means absolutely nothing if the experience isn't fun. It has to grab the user on an emotional level, and that takes a real understanding of what makes us humans tick. Okay, so if those are the problems, what's the solution? And this is where Papa Studio's method comes in. Their entire approach is built to tackle these core challenges head-on. Their big answer is to be a one-stop gaming solution. So what does that mean? It means they handle all the complicated tech stuff while staying absolutely laser-focused on the player. They're designing an experience that people genuinely want to come back to over and over again. So how do they actually pull this off? Well, first, they tackle that complex and risky investment problem. They de-risk it. Instead of some rigid, locked-in plan where costs can just balloon, their process is super transparent and flexible. This means they can adapt to changes on the fly without completely derailing the project or, blowing up the budget. Next up, that huge problem of user engagement. How do they solve that? By designing everything from the ground up with game mechanics and player psychology baked right in. It's not just about, ticking off a list of features. It's about crafting a whole experience that keeps people hooked and coming back for more. And finally, that execution and expertise gap. To close that gap, they become true partners, not just some hired guns. They bring in a dedicated team of real experts, people who are masters of powerful tools like the Unity engine to make sure the final product is super polished and professional. Okay, so that all sounds great in theory, right? But what does this actually look like in the real world? Let's take a peek at a few examples from their portfolio to see it in action. Check this out. This is an educational game called Lock, Hatch, Egg You. It's a perfect example of what people mean by gamification. Instead of kids just sitting there memorizing facts, they get to go on an adventure, earn rewards, and even compete with their friends. It completely transforms learning from a chore into something that feels like play. And they're not just sticking to traditional games. They're pushing into cool new tech like augmented reality. For a museum called 3D Art in Paradise, they built an app that actually brings the paintings to life, so visitors can just use their phones to literally step inside the art. How cool is that? It creates this totally unique and unforgettable experience. And of course, they've got deep expertise in the huge casual gaming market. I mean, it's massive. A game like this one, Aquax, is designed to be super easy to pick up and play, but still really fun to master. That's the sweet spot that appeals to a huge audience on mobile. So you can see their services really cover the whole spectrum. They can build a full custom game from the ground up, or they can create these little viral mini games for a brand campaign. They can even take an app you already have and inject game-like elements into it to boost engagement. And of course, they can build whole new worlds in AR and VR, the whole shebang. Okay, creating fun experiences is one thing. That's great. But how does all this fun actually translate into real, tangible business results for their clients? This is where we get to see the actual real-world impact of what they do. Get this, a 90% client retention rate. That number?
It speaks volumes, doesn't it? It's not just some random metric on a spreadsheet. It's proof. It's a testament to how strong their partnerships are and the incredible value they deliver. Value that makes clients want to come back for more, again and again.
So what does that value look like in practice? Well, the numbers are pretty striking. We're talking a 40% jump in daily usage, a 25% drop in customer churn, that's people leaving the app, and a 50% surge in player engagement. And listen, these are not just vanity metrics. These are numbers that directly impact a business's bottom line. So, at the end of the day, this is really the key takeaway here. Papa Studio doesn't just make games. What they do is use the technology and the psychology of games to help businesses do three things: innovate, engage their customers, and ultimately grow. You know what Papa Studio is doing really points to a much bigger idea. It's this idea that the line between, say, utility and play is totally blurring. It's disappearing. Smart, game-like design is making all kinds of digital experiences way more engaging. And let's be clear, Papa Studio isn't new to this game. Their journey shows a really clear progression. They were founded back in 2018, launched the studio in 2020, expanded, and now they're focusing on a global reach. They've been building and refining this whole playful approach for years now. And it kind of leaves you wondering, doesn't it? If the principles of good game design can make learning and marketing and even looking at art more engaging, what's next? I mean, what part of our world should we try to make a little more playful?